Okay. Hi, I'm Ruby McGuire of Rock Your Fabulous Biz. Welcome to my Rocking Your Visibility Blabs, where I'm talking with lots of fabulous business owners about how they're rocking their visibility. Now, each blab's very informal. It's really meant to be like a coffee and a chat with a friend. So you'll be learning some simple strategies and nuggets that you can use immediately in your business. No pressure, Karen. And if you've got any questions, feel free to ask any questions in the chat box. So I'm going to be talking today with the fabulous Karen Wilson of Quest for Success. Now, I'm really pleased to be talking to Karen today. I've got to know her over from my groups, and I just love the work that she's doing. I just think it's so needed. I think you just empower people. I just love what you do. I think it's brilliant. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Karen's background. And yes, I am going to be reading this because I will never remember the amount of stuff that she's done. Has been amazing. So she's covered a number of professional bases. So she's qualified technical for Institute of Rating Revenues and Valuations. I've already glazed over because it sounds like there's lots of numbers involved in that. She's held a role in the technical policy unit for a local council, keeping their policies safe right up to judicial review. Advanced financial planning, qualified with the CII, is that? I can't read my own writing. For an international blue chip corporation. She's also taught G60 and advanced pension planning to others. And you're very clever. As soon as I hear numbers, I'm just in awe of you. I bow down to your greatness.
Not at all.
And a committee member of the Chartered Institute of Insurance, Life and Pensions Group in Scotland. There's just never ending. Also on the EXCO, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Association of Scottish Businesswomen. So basically, she knows her stuff. She knows small business, large business, public sector, private sector. So what does she do now? I'm going to get her to tell you, but basically, she helps her clients who are afraid to go to work. They might be afraid to go home for whatever reason, or some other terrifying situation that's happening for them. And she works with them to help them turn it all around. So Karen, I'm going to let you do the talking now. You tell us a little bit about you and what you do in a day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Ruby, and thanks very much. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you as well. I've loved the groups that we've been in. So what I do when I work with my clients generally come to me through word of mouth, HR. Sometimes I get called in as that woman. If that woman can't sort this out, then we are free to release this person from our employment with a clean conscience. And or if an individual knows that they need help because they are paralyzed by some form of circumstance, but they don't want it going on their HR records or they don't want it going on their GP records, then they come to me and I give them practical things that they can do immediately to start to turn the situation around. So some of the people I've worked with, and whether it seems big to you or small to you, that's pretty immaterial, not you personally, Ruby, but people in general. It's really huge for the individual that's suffering with it. So there's one gentleman who has a military background, very academic and very successful at running his consultancy business, turnover a couple of 100,000 a year, but he didn't have very many people skills in the first place, and he was starting to have a real scattergun approach to getting the next contract. And because he was terrified that he was never going to get the next piece of work, and even though he had 12 years experience behind him to demonstrate that he always got the next piece of work, he was terrifying himself with this fear and worry. And so now he has a house by the sea. His studies are his holidays and his downtime. And he has now a position in one of the top 4 in London, which he absolutely loves as a business troubleshooter. Right from the small business owner who was really, really terrified of the winter, her SAD was really quite paralyzing for her. And she always thought she was never going to hit her end of year business targets because she would do really well in the year and spend all her energies. And it'd come towards the winter and she would hate going to her office and lots of other different things. And this anxiety level just was driving her to frustration and illness and distraction, alongside a lot of other bits and pieces that was happening in her personal life. And we put a few very simple strategies in place, and she was hugely different. In fact, she didn't even come for a final session. She's like, oh, just bank that, I'm off and running. So fantastic. From not being able to get off the couch to post-traumatic stress to being terrified to speak because you think that the meeting room, all eyes are on you. Anything that terrifies the individual is what I help them with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I've shared in a couple of interviews before that I suffered with imposter syndrome when I was in my HR role. And, you know, if I'd had somebody that could have helped me through that process, it would have made such a difference, because I just talked myself into knots. And it wasn't necessary. I wasn't terrified, but it still had such an impact on confidence and the kind of things that I put myself forward for and all of those kind of things. So an amazing job. I really, really take my hat off to you. So fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So visibility, because I'm all about talking about visibility, as you know. It's really important when you're running your business, and it doesn't come easily to a lot of us. So have you struggled with visibility yourself when running your own business?
I've struggled massively. I can't believe I've just said that in public.
I know. I'm doing it too. We'll go through it together.
Because we have this veneer, don't we, that everything is perfect, and we uphold that, and lots of good bona fide reasons to do that too. And even as a qualified business coach, I tell, you know, I talk people through the seesaw cycle of you market, and then you sell enough spots, and then you deliver, so your marketing goes down, and then you market, and it goes back up, and then you deliver, so your marketing goes down. So that's very natural. So that, I wouldn't necessarily say I struggled with that so much as accepted that as a natural course of things, but that doesn't necessarily help. And also with myself, I've had over the past 3 or 4 years a couple of serious bouts of illness, not serious, other people have had much worse things than me, but it was enough for me to take all of my energy to deliver my client roles, and there wasn't anything left for marketing. Mm-hmm. And then there's a number of times I've been, yes, I'm gung-ho and it's going to be super. And then other circumstances have come to the fore. We've had some illness within the family, and it was my priority at the time then to make sure that I was here should I be needed. And touch wood, thank you, I've not been needed as much. But I had a personal fear of, what if I get clients from all of this visibility? How can I deliver professionally to clients and still be there for my family? So I've been through the whole arena of practical and non-practical struggles.
Yeah, well, I think thank you for sharing, because it is scary, and I think a big part of being more visible is allowing some of our vulnerability to come out, and that's really uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you have to share everything about you, but you want people to connect with you, build relationships with people, and they need to know that you're not actually perfect. We had a friend over at the weekend, and I'm a Virgo, so my go-to thing is Virgoan, and I'm very much about perfection. And we had this joke around towels, how I said, you can't have those, they don't match. And he's like, he threw them on the floor and he said, this is ridiculous, Ruby. You need to get over this whole perfectionism. And it translates into business, it translates to so many areas of your life. But in sharing the stories, other people then can start to identify that, oh, okay, so you're a bit, I know there's probably not many, but you're a bit like that. And it's those vulnerabilities, you don't want people to know that actually those sort of things are really important to you, but it helps someone else. So I think, you know, the fact that you've been able to manage your business and some of the fear around being successful, essentially, isn't it? Because if you're bringing clients, that was a fear for you. That's something potentially could hold you back then marketing when you have got the time marketing your business. Okay, so how did you overcome it? You said you've sort of done a few things. How do you think you've overcome being visible in your business? And it may be that you're still going through that process. I know I am.
Yes, well, I think it's always going to be a process now. I think it's going to be that upward spiral. So one of the first key steps is accepting it. And so that's huge. And also knowing what type of visibility you like. For me, I much prefer a camera. I really, really do. But I still think that that's in the minority of how to be visible. People still expect a big blog or a complicated, I don't know, schema or something that's meaty. And if you're going to, you know, it needs to be fully formed and functioning instead of just like a tweet or something. So there's lots of bits and pieces. I've gone off track just now, but there's lots of ways to be visible, and for me, it's like not doing all of them.
No, so, absolutely. And it is finding what works for you. I know some of my clients are horrified at the thought of doing video, and I've said in recent ones that, you know, technically it's not something that I enjoy doing video, but blabs, they're so easy. You haven't got to mess around with the technical because they're quite easy, and it's very much about finding what works for you and focusing on a few areas rather than failing at so many. And there's so much out there. That's the thing. There's so many platforms that you can be on. And that then can draw us in. And someone says, "Oh, that's what made me successful." Oh, I'll go off down that path. And it's consistency, isn't it? Definitely.
It definitely is consistency. And what I found as well is like not being hard on ourselves as for things that we could have done and we haven't yet done. And it's doing the little things as you see them. For example, I've just changed my email footer. But in the big scheme of things, that's a tiny thing to do. But putting all of the right then connections on it, you realize actually people can get in touch with me 6 million ways. And is my platform consistent across all of the board there? Very unlikely. Plus, there's other things like I know I've updated my Twitter profile, so I expect that to populate through this blab and through Periscope, but so far it hasn't yet. So I know I've updated other profiles, so as I come in across my platform, it's okay to update them. So of course, that whole perfectionism again, if we think to ourselves, I've changed a word or a way that sentence is phrased, I must now go across all of my platforms and update them. Well, you've created an onerous task and you've added something to your to-do list that wasn't even there at the start of the day. So, of course, it's great if you've got that. It's great if you can outsource that, if you've got a great team member to do that. But if you're not, don't beat yourself up. And the next time you're on that platform, just change it then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Definitely. And I think it's where you see other people doing different things as well. You think, oh, I need to follow suit. And no, you don't. You just do what's right for you and your business. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So you've talked about a couple of strategies. How would you say you've overcome some of the challenges for you?
The biggest way I've overcome the challenges so far is to be consistent with my blog. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Now, when I say consistent, people have a different version of consistent. My version of consistent is that it's almost invariably weekly. And if there's a week that I miss, I don't beat myself up on that. It could be it's a bank holiday. It could be like we're out of the country physically on holiday. Well, I don't write blogs ahead necessarily. If I have content pre-prepared and can schedule it, I'm delighted to do so. But if I don't, then I don't beat myself up for that. And also it's now, so that has been able to populate a lot of my now more consistent marketing across the board. So that's been the most useful tool that I've had. Plus, as you get better, as you know better, you can do better. So there's always a potential for all of those blogs to be rewritten and new and improved and updated with more current numbers and content and situations. But the biggest thing is, see, when I have this most recent the past 6 months, there's been lots of aha moments, and it's really capturing those and saying, right, I'm actually planning and scheduling these with some common sense and not, as you say, just like, oh, I need to be on that one too, or I need to be on that one too. It's like, well, let's just take a step backwards and see where we actually are. Keep your ahas because they will serve us. It will definitely serve me. And then use our educated part of our brain to do it instead of our emotional part of the brain that goes, oh, I want shiny, bright object syndrome. Going, want one too. It's like, well, you can have one if you are calm and consistent.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a notebook for those aha moments for me. What about you? How would you capture your aha moments?
I have one consistent notebook. It's my new and improved version of the bullet journal, which I've been loving. So again, I've taught myself to do that because as a stationery junkie, love stationery. But if my future business is going to be wherever my family are, then much as I would love to uplift my office, that's not practical. So I've done a lot of work on streamlining my system, which I love. So they're always in there. And if I'm walking, it's to use the voice recorder on my phone. And it's also, when I said about acceptance earlier as well, it's also about knowing that we'll always have a million more ideas than we can ever implement. And that's the sign, I think, of an excellent a business owner, because if we run out of ideas, then we've not necessarily got a service or anything to do, but knowing that they're all going in the pot and the right ones will come to the surface when they're ready.
I think I've got this quote that I share. I'm not sure who actually wrote it, but it's you're exactly where you need to be right now. And it's that you seem to be living that in practice. Everything's that you're okay. What you're doing right now is absolutely fine. And then you can go on to that next step and that next step. And I really love that message that's coming across from you. It's really lovely.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So if you had to give one top tip to others about being visible in their business, what would that be?
And this is not a tangible top tip, so I'm quite sure it won't be appreciated. So let me put that disclaimer out there. Okay. This is a top tip and it will absolutely work for you if you choose to use it. It's much easier to choose to use something where you can put pen to paper, and it's much easier to type something in your Twitter profile or put a Facebook post up. So I understand that this is a little more difficult for that, but it's stop beating yourself up about what we haven't done, right? Those coulda, woulda, shouldas are all yesterday. Every single minute, second, day is an opportunity to draw a line in the sand and say, this is where I am now, and this is what I'm going to share now.
Yeah, fantastic. That's lovely, really lovely. And so what plans have you got in your business to raise your visibility going forward?
Well, with your assistance, which I love, thank you, it's a couple of things. I'm definitely being a tortoise rather than a hare. Get it the right way.
I'm so glad you're sharing. I loved it.
Yes. So because I've done your course and I've loved it, absolutely loved it, and now it's time to really embed it and implement it. And one or two other things that I have decided for myself for this year is that I currently, talking of that upward spiral, is I have enough teachers. I don't need anyone else. I don't need a new shiny bright object in my life. So I'll go through the course, and then what will happen is then I'll notice and I'll have other ahas, other supporting materials, etc. But I don't need to chase another course and find another magic pill. I don't need to do any of those things. So going through each of the chapters 1 month at a time means that it can really, really be embedded. And this is a really strong foundation year for me. So next year, it's like, watch this space. And, people might say, well, that's too far away. I want a result now. But people massively underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years and massively overestimate what they can achieve in 1. So I'm not putting that pressure on myself to be brilliant. I am deciding to invest in myself to build that foundation. And one of the other tools that I'm doing is, we spoke about before. So I now do have a buddy. So the idea is I help her, and in reality, she'll be helping me, because she'll be like, I've been through it, and she'll ask me, of course, that's fine. And then I'll go back and double check and make sure I am ahead of the market so that I can absolutely give my best help.
Fantastic. And it is true. We think we want instant results and they don't happen. And your analogy around the hair of a tortoise is just brilliant, because it is those consistent steps that make all the difference. But there's so much out there saying overnight success, and it takes time. And it's the consistent steps. And I think, like where you were saying around the course side of things, is another thing. I must do this, and I must do that, and I must do this. It's like, when is enough for the moment? It's about implementation. Always about, you can do all the courses in the world, but if you don't implement what you're learning, then what was the point in doing the training in the first place?
Yes, I agree. And I think that there's a lot of us I'll speak for myself then, in my age group. We were probably brought up with traditional parents, and it was, you go to school, you get a good education, you get a good job. But with that also came the philosophy that knowledge is power. And so you could work your way up that field if you were knowledgeable. And if we've grown up as children, we think, we'll take a course, we'll get the knowledge. Knowledge isn't power anymore. Action is power, or implementation is power. And that implementation is power hasn't filtered through yet. And I think it's on our mission to pay that forward and tell everybody that this is the new power, is implementation, not knowledge.
Definitely. Yeah, love that. We'll go on a mission, Karen, together.
Let's do that.
Brilliant. So what's going on in your world going forward? You said this is a foundation thing. Are you offering any new programs that people might be interested in, or one-to-one coaching, or anything else? Or is it just that you're building your foundation slowly for the rest of this year?
I have 2 projects coming up. In April, I'm going to invite people to consider their confidence across the board, because in May and June, I'm going to run my Everything Confidence course, how to be completely confident in every situation. So they'll get a full confidence toolkit in that. In April, I don't have a date set yet, it's likely to be a Tuesday evening. I'm going to do a case study about how, with somebody who has a terrible situation, and this terrible situation is already in the public domain, so I'm not revealing anybody's, inner terror as like voyeurism. That's not what this is all about. This is saying, if you're in a terrible situation, your terrible situation has some of these elements, this is how you build your own exit plan. Or if I were to speak to somebody, it's very easy for me to go, well, that's okay, I need to include this and this and this and this, and they come up with their own bespoke tailored plan, because I do that in my sleep. That's one of the things I go, how can everyone else not do that?
Your zone of genius, dear. You need to own it. Your zone of genius.
Exactly. So I'll be sharing what the clues are, and therefore how you can then start to put together your own one. So that's a case study. So that's going to be a free webinar, one Tuesday evening in April.
I'm going to do on that. It sounds exciting. Fantastic. So how can people find out more about you?
My website is www.questforsuccess.co.uk, or the Quest for Success page on Facebook.
Fantastic. That's lovely. Well, thank you very much. Really enjoyed chatting to you.
Thank
we
you.
have to follow up on this mission. I think it'd be brilliant.
Yes.
So thank you to anyone who's been on the call today. We will have a replay, so we'll be sharing the replay afterwards, and obviously you can get that on the page as well. Really enjoyed having our Rock Your Visibility convo this morning with Karen Wilson of Quest for Success. I've got some more special guests lined up, so watch this space. And if you want some support for your visibility, come and join my Facebook group, which is Rock Your Fabulous Biz. So until next time, ciao for now. Thank you very much, Karen, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Ruby. You too.
Bye.
Bye.